Hello and welcome back to the Villa Filler podcast. I'm here once again with my good friend Dan Wiseman. Dan, how are you doing, mate? It's a gloomy Saturday morning, probably quite reflective on how last night went at Villa Park, isn't it?
Yeah, mate, it is some pathetic fallacy for all my GCSE English students out there. It's pretty gloomy. But look, the thing is like here we are, we're on it after a 3-0 loss. Both pretty happy. I don't know about you, but like obviously not happy with the result, but the optimism is still there. I'm not like coming on here. It's not like after last season, some of
Yeah.
the three defeats that we had to suffer there, we'd be sort of begrudgingly coming on this podcast thinking, oh yeah, here we go again. This was crap. This was crap. But here we are. I think we'll obviously touch on the game, mate, but I haven't actually heard yet all about your day yesterday because for those that don't know, Dan, you were at the game yesterday in
I was,
person,
yeah.
in the flesh, live and direct from B6, our very own, the Villa Filler's finest, Mr. Dan Morgan in attendance. Forget the game, mate. Tell me everything. How was it?
It was crazy. And I think as a fan, obviously, who hadn't been to the games since Leicester, whenever you see the journalists like Ashley Priest or Matt Mayer or someone like that tweet and they say some, they're like, oh yeah, like let the fans in or something like that. You kind of like, yeah, like I appreciate you definitely want the fans in, but like it's almost like you're saying that just because you're there and we're not. And I kind of felt like that last night. I actually felt kind of guilty being there.
Yeah, I know
Because
exactly. I can imagine. Yeah, I know exactly what you
like,
mean.
I mean, you've been in the press box before as well, Dan, at Villa Park. So, we've got to mention that. We've both been fortunate enough to have been there. Obviously, you were
Yeah.
there, but it was the Bolton game, weren't it?
Bolton game. Yeah, good memory,
Yeah,
mate.
see,
Nicely
mate,
done. A couple of
how
years
could I
back.
forget? I think we only won 1-0, didn't we?
Yeah, it was. Oh, it was two.
Two.
Chesney and Jack scored.
That's
Yeah,
the one. Oh, yeah, Jack rounded the keeper, didn't he? I remember
it
now.
was that. It was that game where Chesney that on the off the line clearance. Where he sort of like hooked it out
Yes,
under the crossbar. It was that game. Yeah,
that
but
was
no, like
insane.
look. I mean, that is going to be some story for the grandkids, mate. Like when you can look back on all this and say, yeah, I was. I mean, probably not the game you would have wanted to go to. You were one home game too late, weren't you? Really, mate? But
Yeah.
no, it just looks amazing. Mate. What's it like? Like, can you? I imagine like it must be so interesting to hear the players and could you hear Dean and all that sort of stuff? Like,
Yeah, so
what?
obviously Dean had occupied a position higher up in the stands
Mhm.
from Project Restart. He was actually on the touchline for the large parts of yesterday. I don't know whether that's come down to the performance or how the game was going, and maybe he wanted the players just to hear him a bit more. But no, I've got to give full credit to Villa, and I'm sure you're aware of this, Dan. But the setup is very good. I got the email saying, I was confirmed I had to do a health declaration form, all that jazz. The new normal, obviously, which is totally fine. You get there and directed to the car park. You go to collect your accreditation. You do a temperature check in the ticket office. So, like before you even get to the stadium or whatever, before you can have your pass, you have to have your temperature checked by a machine, which is quite good actually. Everyone was very like warm and welcoming as well because I don't know about you, Dan, but going to other games in press boxes that I have for like uni assignments and stuff like that, sometimes people aren't just aren't the warmest to you.
No, yeah.
People at the end of the day, they're doing their job. It's understandable. But no, everyone at Villa was a delight, very helpful. And on the email, they actually said that I would be in an overflow area, which is fine, and I wouldn't have a power outlet or a desk, which is inconvenient, but I understand that kind of stuff's there for the national press, and I was there for a website, Vavel. My match report and Dean Smith quotes will be in the description if you want to relive that nightmare. But no, I got there in the Trinity Road, free water, which is great, keep us hydrated. Obviously, usually they'd put food on, but with COVID, there's none of that, so that's understandable. I got to say, I had a banging meal at Sheffield Wednesday. They did a beautiful chicken and leek pie, so that's currently at the top at the moment. It's yet to be taken off the perch. But no, I got into the Trinity Road, and someone was in my seat. I was actually in the Leeds area, which was hardly enjoyable for myself. But no, again, I've been in press boxes and press areas before where I remember one of my first instances, I was at Walsall and I missed who assisted one of the goals, and I just asked one of the guys next to me. I was like, "Oh, was that Ozturma? Who was that? Like, who was it?" And the guy just said, "Oh, well, you should have been paying attention." And I'm like, "Hang on, mate. There's a giant fucking post in front of me. I don't know if you guys have been to the Best Guy, but there's a giant metal post that blocks the view of the press box." So yeah, sometimes I've not had as many pleasant experiences with other journalists in press boxes. But funnily enough, that guy afterwards asked me who scored the next goal, and I was like, "You should have been watching the game." I did the nice switcheroo.
Clapping back, I like
Exactly.
it.
But no, like all the Leeds guys who I was around were very nice, were all very helpful as well. I actually did end up having a desk and a power outlet. So Villa, I've actually fitted them in the seats in the Trinity Road stand. So it's going to be interesting when fans get back in, because I was actually sat in a girl's seat who I used to work with. Funnily enough, she messaged me saying, "You're in my seat." I'm like, "Oh my God." So yeah, when fans are back in, I'm sure there'll still be that kind of overspill area for the media. Just obviously have to work around it in terms of fans. But no, as you kind of alluded to there, mate, it's really interesting hearing the players and hearing Dean, because I sit way at the top of the North Stand. You sit in the Trinity Road, don't you?
Yeah.
Heart of the Holt, we're frauds. So you don't usually get to hear that kind of action. It's only when we go away from home. Like I remember the first time I properly heard like some communication on the pitch was QPR away, because you're like right on the pitch. I was like on the 5th row from the front. I could hear Axel yelling to Nyland, "Don't hoof it," stuff like that. It's kind of interesting to hear. But no, Tyrone Mings, mate, what a communicator. Now, obviously, Jack Grealish is rightfully the captain for Aston Villa, but Tyrone on that pitch, that's almost it's his responsibility. Shouting at Trez where to be for corners, set pieces, stuff like that. It's I took a lot of joy hearing that, and also it was really funny. There was a very squeaky voice from the Leeds side, and I'm thinking, who's that? And it had a slight Cockney twang to it, and it was Luke Ayling. And whenever he shouts really loud, his voice gets really high. I hope you're not listening to this, Luke, because obviously you had the last laugh in the end. But no, it was funny to hear that. Again,
I hope that put a smile on your face, mate, if nothing else.
Yeah, well, there was a point in time as well, I'm sure you saw in the game, where he slipped over the ball. He didn't shout after that, but I was ready to shout. Obviously, I didn't maintain professionalism and all that.
In the press box, like, way.
Yeah, literally. On the no fans, it was really weird. Like, we've both been to Villa Park for under 23s games where there's probably about the same amount of people as there was in terms of press box. Leeds seem to have had, I don't know whether they were players' families or whatever, but there was a section in the Trinity Road of people who were cheering for Leeds, which really bothered me because I couldn't cheer for Villa. I'm sure the Villa families and that were all in the hospitality boxes and stuff like that, keeping warm, because man, it was a cold night.
I didn't think about that, mate. I didn't
rookie error. I forgot my gloves. I've not learnt from the first time. Numb hands. Not it's good when you're trying to tweet,
isn't it? When you've got those cold hands and your fingers just won't move.
There's like the odd spelling mistake. I'm like, crap, I've got to delete that tweet. But no, it was great, and I feel so lucky to have been able to have watched Villa. And obviously it doesn't help that we lost, but no, listen, it's something I'm going to remember for a long time. And just let fans back in, man. It's not even if there's 1,000 socially distanced, there has to be a safe way of doing it, especially when you look at Norwich, who are screening games live in Carrow Road. Like, and I rate that, you found the loophole and you're making the government look stupid for it. I'm here for that. Listen, that's brilliant. But if you can have however many fans in Carrow Road watching it on the screens, you can have fans in Villa Park. But no, it's a shame, because I think, and we said this in the preview, Dan, Leeds were going to be the toughest side that we faced this season. and it proved to be that way. The first half was it was neither here nor there. I think either team could have taken the lead in the first half. Jack Grealish obviously had his effort cleared off the line, and I've only seen it back once, but I'm confident that Grealish's push from Costa should have warranted a penalty. Dino even said in the Zoom press conference afterwards that Mike Dean told him there was contact. So the issue is clearly that it wasn't a clear and obvious error, which again is frustrating because again Dean mentioned in his interviews afterwards, I think that first goal changed the game, and if it swings in your favour, then we've seen how well Villa have performed so far this season, mate. What are your thoughts on the penalty?
Look, it's one of those where you don't want to dwell too much on those things. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like you sort of like when I come on these things, I and speak on the pod, I never really like to get too bogged down in refereeing decisions and stuff like that. But look, that there were a few key moments in the game, and where and I said this in last week's pod, mate. I was like, it would be really interesting because this is like the first time in 8 games that we've trailed or something like that. When we went 1-0 down, and I said in the preview, it would be really interesting to see what happens if we go a goal down, if we go 2 goals down, and see how the players respond to that. And it was very, very interesting in that sense because there was no response.
Yeah,
but we just before the shots, before the first goal. So like before the first goal went in, Leeds had 4 shots on target. We had 2. So it was relatively, Leeds were the better side, but it was relatively easy. The first goal goes in. We didn't have a shot on target for the rest of the game. And Leeds ended with about 20.
Yeah.
And it's like we couldn't find it in ourselves to bounce back. And look, mate, I'm not getting bogged down in this. I still remain optimistic. We were just beaten by the better side, and there will be a response. We have we have a Southampton side up against us next that caused their own problems, yes, but that's a very winnable game for us. And look, we will bounce back, but we were just beaten by a side who was so well tactically drilled. Like the way that Bielsa executed that performance yesterday was just remarkable. I mean, I'm seeing Patrick Bamford morph into prime Thierry Henry, opening his body with his left foot and bending it into the
crazy
goal, and you're like, wow, like if I'm not, I don't want to get slated for saying this, but that's a championship striker.
No, it is. What Bielsa's done with Bamford is remarkable. He's a man who's barely got over 12 a season any time.
Look, he's doing this, man. Like he's had the best start for any Leeds striker in the Premier League since Eric Cantona. He's matched Eric Cantona's record in the opening games. I think like 5 goals or something like that. Absolutely mental. But that's what I mean. The Leeds side yesterday, pound for pound, it's not anywhere near the quality of ours.
No.
But Bielsa, and this is what we were saying, mate, is that the best managers in the world make players into something that was like previously unimaginable. If you look, and I always reference this in the Liverpool team, where like before the Liverpool, who like Sadio Mane, Mo Salah, Firmino came out Hoffenheim. Salah was like this Chelsea reject that was like just starting to find his feet out in Roma. Sadio Mane was a good player, but he was playing at Southampton. Look at Andy Robertson when he was playing for like Queen of the South or wherever it was, Van Dijk. They just elevate, and Bielsa has certainly done that with Leeds. And look, mate, they deserve absolutely everything yesterday. They had the intensity, they had the aggression. They just have this really interesting mindset where they just play at 100% all the time. And these Bielsa teams have this trademark sort of these really direct, but not sort of just overloading the box, but making really precise, packing the box with midfield runners and attacking runners at the right time, making intelligent runs. And when Leeds countered attack, and they hit us on the counter, we couldn't cope with the runners and the way that they entered our box and the way that they managed to shift the ball in the final third. And we just had no answer for that, mate. And look, Bamford does my head in, mate. But wow, he scored some brilliant goals yesterday. Look, we move on to the next one, mate. I don't want to dwell on the performance too much. Everyone knows what it was, and more importantly, what it wasn't. But look, it's not time for a meltdown. It's
No,
far from.
absolutely.
We're still looking very pretty. We're still sat third in the table, I think, with a game in hand. I mean, albeit that game is Manchester City, so don't hang
Yeah.
too much. But the table still reads very pretty. And look, if we're talking about the game on paper, as I was just saying with Leeds, we shouldn't have beaten Liverpool 7-2.
No.
As a freak result. We like Leicester was again an amazing win, and a defeat was coming. It was inevitable.
Yeah, of
It's
course.
coming against a side who are going to win many games this season. A side which 3-0 isn't great, but it's no shame to lose to this Leeds side at the moment. It really isn't.
No.
And we've got Southampton next. I'm awaiting a response from the manager, who again I think Dean's flaw. Like his substitutions, mate, they do my nutting at times. I love Dean for all he is, but my God, that man can't make us. Like it's just this inbuilt biological innate thing where he's like, not before the 70th minute, no, and like we saw Bielsa making changes after like 20-30 minutes, didn't we? I mean, I know they were a little enforced, but perhaps that's the difference between the two gaffers there, mate. And I think that's all it came down on the night. They were just a better side, run potentially by a better manager, and just got the better result. And when you get beaten like that, mate, and you can only hold your hands up and say fair play.
Yeah, I think on the substitutes, I think if anything, it's just proven that we aren't quite there yet with the squad. We have a very good start in 11, but I think in terms of the substitutions that Dean made, or the substitute that Dean made, because there was only one, Tres for Traore seemed a strange one because Villa struggled to get the ball out from their own half. There was a good 20-minute spell where we couldn't keep hold of the ball and we just couldn't get out of our own half. Now, in that instance, it would lend itself to having bring on a central midfielder, someone who can pick the ball up, look for a pass, maybe even lends itself to Conor Hourihane, that situation. I don't know. But we're in this situation now. Obviously, we've added quality in players like, Watkins, Traore, Cash. But, we're still, 1 or 2 transfer windows, even years away from having a squad where we can bring off someone off the bench who can really change the game, because we have good players. I'm not at all sat here questioning whether Nakamba or saying players like that aren't good enough, but I think when you're in a situation like Chelsea, and I know it's completely different, but the fact they can even loan out Ross Barkley and still have players on their bench who are going to impact their games, that's the difference now. And going forwards, Villa are going to have to maybe try and manage their games a bit better. There's going to be rotation, I'd imagine, at times. We're going to see Conor Hourihane in that starting lineup probably for some games. So, maybe that does lend itself to a Ross Barkley super sub or something like that. But going forward, as you say, Dan, it's we can't really complain too much, Dan. 12 points out of a possible 15, second in the league is just, it's amazing. Obviously, there's a game happening now, I think, as we're recording. It's 12 o'clock. So we'll be keeping a keen eye out on how those games go and where we are. I'm hoping for a better FPL weekend, Dan, because I've made a lot of changes.
Oh my God, I just thinking.
I only got 6 points last night. I put Martinez in. Grealish and Cash didn't get me too many. So, mate, I think I'm the bad luck. I was at the game. I've put Martinez in my FPL. I'm sorry, guys. I'm just going to retire now. But no, we've obviously Southampton. There will be. We'll do another podcast and a preview for that, because Dan has got to get himself to work shortly.
I do, unfortunately. That's the pains of working part-time, mate. It's starting to affect the Villa filler. It just can't be, can it? I'll
have a word with your boss, mate. It's fine.
I know, out of order, isn't it? Out of order. But no,
do
mate.
A podcast from behind the bar.
Yeah. That's what I mean. I just have my AirPods in. I can be scuttling around doing my own thing, and we can do it that way. But look, no, it's you'll never get panic stations on this podcast, not this season anyway. No, mate, look, we move is the motto of this podcast. We've got the Saints next. There's a couple of things which won't be interesting to see, because obviously now we've had no reason to change the team up to now. But like, it's been the same lineup every week, and it's now you're first like, right, this is Dane's first chance to maybe just tweak a few things. It'd be interesting to see if we see that the same unchanged 11, or whether Dane goes to make a few changes. It wasn't Trez's finest hour last night, and I think Traore will be. I think he's owed a run of starts in this team, so we can really find out what he's about. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there. As you said, we've got Connor and different things. So it will be interesting to see how Dean goes for that next game, mate. But until then, we'll definitely preview the Southampton game. And we didn't want to keep people too long dwelling on last night, obviously. But no, I think we got a round off by echoing that got some nice support on the last podcast. It was nice to see it get to 4,000 views. That was really cool, mate. And so just again, we do it at the end of every podcast, but I almost feel obliged to, mate. Is just to thank everyone for how this is going. I think we're past 3.1k subscribers as well now, which is awesome. And so just definitely drop that your article and the interviews in the description, mate. I think it'd be cool if people for some reason want to check out those.
You weird guys.
But I certainly will. So it'd be interesting to see those, mate. And we've got a week, and we'll get something sorted in the midweek, mate. And we'll bring a preview for the Saints game out for you guys.
Absolutely. We'll be back soon. So if you guys did enjoy, please do like the video, comment your thoughts below on the performance and how you think Southampton will go. We'll potentially have a look at them in next week's podcast. And if you enjoyed, of course, subscribe for more. We really appreciate all the support you guys give us. Thank you very much. Up the Villa.
The chest is essential. The fulfilling this got potential. It's the main man, a hero. He's the main leader of the gang. Chester. Chester. He's the main leader of the gang now.